Gold poured from the ceiling like captive sunlight, coins, bars, jeweled ingots, all of it spilling into a glittering hill at the feet of Captain Elias Vance. And still, the human did not kneel, did not blink, did not reach for any of it. Because behind the treasure, beyond the silk banners and crystal fires and the smug generosity of a royal court, there were cages, and inside those cages were the survivors of 3 conquered worlds. Bruised, hungry, silent, watching him as if his next breath might decide whether the universe still had justice left in it. The Court of Aurum Prime worshipped spectacle. Their empire was plated in beauty so brilliant it made cruelty look ceremonial. Their ships wore mirrored armor, their soldiers marched in lacquered exosuits. Their nobles smiled as if mercy itself were a luxury brand. And at the center of them all sat Princess Khalees, heir to the radiant throne, draped in molten gold and hard diamonds, studying the only human ever invited to bargain in her father's palace. "Human," she said, "your fleet has fought with uncommon resolve. Accept this tribute, take your reward, leave these prisoners to their lawful fate, and carry back to Earth a message of royal respect." The chamber waited for him to fold. Because empires always assume everyone bends eventually, especially before enough wealth to buy moons, fleets, generations of peace. But humanity had not crossed 6 burning systems to become rich. Humanity had crossed them because Aurum prison moons were swallowing civilians, because colonies had vanished into labor rings, because too many worlds had learned too late that a beautiful empire could still build ugly cages. Then Elias smiled, and somehow the room got colder. "I did not come for your gold," he said. "I came for your prisoners." Shock moved through the chamber. Nobles stiffened. Ministers whispered. The royal guard shifted hands toward weapons not yet drawn. And Princess Kellis leaned forward with fascinated disbelief. "You misunderstand me, Captain," she said. "That gold could make your alliance untouchable. I am offering you enough wealth to turn your species into a dominant power, and you are asking for condemned aliens who are not even your own." Elias took a single step, not toward the treasure, but toward the cages. And every guard followed that movement like it was a spark near dry fuel. "They are my own," he said. "Anyone in chains, anyone marked expendable so someone else can sleep in luxury, anyone told their life is worth less than a throne, that is my own." For the first time, the princess stopped performing royalty and started measuring danger. Because fleets could be counted, armies could be modeled. But a man who could not be purchased was a fault line under any empire built on value and price and rank. "Choose carefully," Princess Elias said, "because beyond your sky, my fleet is waiting. And we did not come here to leave people behind." That was the moment the bargain died. The court erupted. Generals demanding execution, ministers crying treason, one armored commander declaring that the prisoners were lawful assets of conquest, examples to deter rebellion. And perhaps that speech would have ended the matter if not for the laugh that rose from one of the cages. Thin, tired, fearless, an old woman from the Myros ash fields gripping the bars with swollen hands. "Look at you," she called to the princess. "All this gold, all this theater. And one human with an honest spine has frightened the whole room." Silence slammed down. Kellis stood, furious now. But Elias spoke before she could reclaim the moment. "You think we came this far because our guns improved?" he said. "No. We came this far because we do something your empire never learned. We adopt the abandoned. We answer distress calls even when it costs us. We make family out of strangers faster than tyrants can divide them. Every world you chain becomes another reason for us to unite. Every prisoner you keep becomes another citizen in waiting. That is why you are losing. Because you still think value comes from what can be counted." Now even the guards were listening. The empire had been answered. A long moment followed, the kind that separates a regime from ruin. The princess looked at the gold, at the cages, at her court, and at the humans standing before her without fear, and for the first time she seemed to understand the weakness hiding inside all that glitter. Rome had built itself on ownership. on the belief that every living thing could be ranked, priced, displayed, exchanged. But the coalition outside her world was built from refugees. Miners, machine minds, farmers, human marines, and lost fleets that had chosen one another without bloodline or profit. And that kind of loyalty was harder than metal, because it could not be bought and would not stay broken. "You would trade a fortune for them?" Kellis asked, quieter now. Elias shook his head. "No, princess. I would burn a fortune for them." And power blinked first. Something broke in the room after that. Kellis lifted a hand. The guards hesitated. Then her command struck the chamber network. "Unlock the cages, every one of them." Gasps answered her first. Then the soft mechanical chorus of seals disengaging. One cell, then another, then dozens, then hundreds through the lower vaults. Then thousands relayed to prison stations around the capital ring. And as doors opened across the palace, a sound rose that no treasure in the galaxy could imitate. Disbelief turning to sobbing, laughter, prayers. Names shouted into the air like returning stars when Elias turned to leave. He took no bars, no jewels, no title, only prisoner manifests, medical access codes, transport clearances, and the promise that every coalition shuttle in orbit would make room for one more survivor. And the story outran war itself, from station markets to frontier relays. A princess had offered humanity gold, and humanity had asked for prisoners instead. An empire of splendor had been challenged not by greed, but by a stubborn mercy too expensive to frighten, and on worlds that had never seen Earth. People lifted their heads and whispered the same astonished truth. Humans are mad. They charge empires for strangers. They hear chains from across the stars, and when the next tyrant asked what made them so dangerous, the answer came back simple, steady, and impossible to bribe. They decide who their people are, and then they come for them.